Who else is good? Rachel was going to, but I would rather have to be
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me well on this? This is Sarah Vanover from the Division of Child Care.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our purpose today is we kind of wanted to give some background on the Early Care and Education Trainer's Credential to some of our non-early childhood people in the field. We, in the past year, we have obviously had a lot going on with the Pediatric Abusive Head Trauma Initiative and to get trainers trained on doing that. And there are other topics in the mental health field and the social work field that we would like to be able to have experienced trainers giving that information to child care providers. And so we're really trying to get the information out to people in the field of social work or mental health field about what the trainer's credential is and why we need people doing that. So we're going to go through the PowerPoint, and if you have questions, just let me know. Some of our background on the trainer's credential, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, basically all of our child care providers, whether they're licensed, certified, registered, they have some type of training requirement that has to be met every year due to licensing regulations. They have different amounts. It could be 15 hours, 9 hours, 6 hours. It just depends on what type of setting they're in, but everybody needs training. And in an effort to maintain quality training, the Division of Child Care began to find a way to find the most qualified people to give out those trainings. And that's kind of where the trainer's credential came into play. So back around 2002, the trainer's credential was created, and it was optional at that point in time, but we were using it to find trainers who went through a certification process so that when they offered training, they could give clock hour training credit to meet the licensing requirements for our child care providers. Right now, it varies every quarter when we get new people, and we have some people who don't renew, but right now we stay right around 800 credentialed trainers throughout the state. Some of those trainers train very frequently. Others might do an occasional training throughout the year, but I would say probably 50% of our trainers are training on a regular basis. Like I said, when the trainer's credential was first created, it wasn't mandatory. We were just trying to get the information out. But now in Kentucky, if a training is going to offer clock hour training credit, then the trainer must either have a credentialed trainer offering the training, or if a credentialed trainer does not offer the training, then whoever is organizing the training must apply to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services with the Division of Child Care to have that individual training approved based on the experience and education of the presenter and the objectives that the training is covered. Or for some of our national organizations that we know are consistently offering quality training and who don't necessarily have time to apply to the state of Kentucky for approval on all their events, we have some organizations like NAYC, 0 to 3, SECA, large organizations that their trainings are always counted. When we look at the type of training that is being offered to our child care providers, we want it offered in one of 7 core content areas. So we're looking at child growth and development, health, safety, and nutrition, professional development and professionalism, learning environment and curriculum, child assessment, family and community partnerships, and then program management. And those are the 7 areas that we're focusing on with clock hour training credit. Whenever somebody applies for training approval for an individual event, that training has to fit within one of those 7 areas in order to be content that is applicable to the early childhood field. Specifically looking at trainers that qualify for the trainer's credential, the bare minimum requirements for anybody, regardless of what level, is that you must be at least 21 years of age, and you must have the required education and experience relevant to the core content areas. That can be a degree in early childhood. It can be a related degree to the field. It might be a non-related degree, but you would have to have considerably more experience in the field in order for those education and experience requirements to match. Beyond that point, we look at the trainer's individual background and what they bring to the field. We have 5 different levels of trainers that can present on any of the core content areas. Or you have the option of getting a specialty credential in a specific field of study. That specialty credential, the area that you would be able to train in would fit within one of the core content areas. The higher the level, if you apply for a level credential, levels 1 through 5, the higher the credential level you get, then the higher level of content that you would be able to present. A level 5 trainer would be able to offer trainings all the way up through master's level education, something that is equivalent. If you're training at a level 1 or 2 training, if you have a credential for 1 or 2, then you're doing more entry-level training and basic concepts to the field of early childhood. And again, specialty trainers can select a topic that falls under one of the core content areas. Your specialty topic is really dependent upon what your current license is, your degree, your certification, and your work experience. If we had someone apply for a specialty credential who had their CSW and specifically worked in child protection and permanency, with their background and their education, they might specifically want to train on child abuse or child abuse prevention topics. But their background in social work might also include, healthy family partnerships. You would have to look at what your training and your experience has, how that lines up with your degree and your certification. The level 1 trainer is the basic level, entry-level trainer. And in order to obtain that, you would only need a high school diploma or the equivalent. But you must have 3 years of full-time experience in early childhood. And that a level 1 trainer is required to co-train with another credentialed trainer whenever they offer trainings. This is kind of the entry-level trainer title at this point. Level 2 trainers is the next rung of the ladder, and you must have at least a CDA, which is a Child Development Associate's credential, or higher, and then 3 years of full-time experience also. Or the other option would be to have 10 years full-time experience relevant to the core content area, and then have 45 documented hours of clock hour training credit in the field of early childhood. For level 3, we look for either an associate's in early childhood education or its equivalent, and 3 years full-time experience in the field. Or you could have a bachelor's degree in a field related to early childhood education with just 1 year full-time experience. Or you could have a bachelor's degree in a field that is not related to early childhood, but 10 years of full-time experience in the field to go along with that. As far as the credential is concerned, when we speak of full-time and part-time, full-time would be 30 hours a week work experience. If you needed to have 1 full-time year of experience, say you had a bachelor's degree in a field related to early childhood and you had 3 part-time years of experience, if you could add up the hour equivalent, if you worked 15 hours a week for 3 years, then it would be added up in total to get that 1 year full-time experience. Level 4 trainers have 3 different options. The first is a bachelor's degree in early childhood and 1 year full-time experience in the field. We also have the option of a bachelor's degree in a field related to early childhood education. So that could be other education fields, that could be human services type of fields, and then 1 year of full-time experience in the field. And then the third option is a bachelor's degree in a field not related to early childhood, 3 hours of college coursework credit in child development, and at least 10 years full-time experience in the early childhood field. At the level 4, to achieve a level 4 trainer's credential, whether you have a non-related degree, a related degree, or the early childhood degree, we have to see 3 college coursework hours of child development training. Then our final level is a level 5 trainer. This is the highest level that you can apply for. The 2 options in this are either a master's degree in early childhood with 1 year experience, or a master's degree in a field related to early childhood, the 3 hours of credit in child development, and 1 year full-time experience related to early childhood. Does anybody have any questions on the different levels at this point? Okay. The other option besides from a level credential is a specialty credential. And for the specialty trainer credential, you need to have a current license or certificate or credential in your field, which is probably not early childhood. It might be mental health, it might be social work, it might be nursing. Along with that license, certificate, or credential, you would also need 3 years of experience in your area of expertise. So if you look through the different types of credentials and you see that you would qualify for one, then you could move on to the application process. The application is on the TIP website, which is Training into Practice Project. It's through UK, and the web address is there on the page. And the application is pretty accessible. The TIP staff also are fabulous at helping you with questions about the application process if you do have any questions. Along with getting the application, there's a couple of trainings that you might have to look at ahead of time. One thing that you'll have to take is a 2-hour course on Introduction to Resources. It's resources that are available to trainers. And this course is offered through the different child care resource and referral agencies throughout the state. Some of them do it online. I think some are face-to-face. But it's a class that basically lets you know what resources are available to support your training. And that is required, that certificate is required with your application when you apply. Also, if you apply for a level training, then you'll have to take the Fundamentals of Effective Trainers workshop. That workshop is offered through the TIP website also. You can find information about that there. Right now, it is several days of training. It's actually 15 hours of training that are focused on affecting change in behavior, adult learning theory, and different ideas that help our trainers to understand the best way to give new information to adults and to help them to use that and transfer it back to the classroom. So the application process involves submitting several things. When you apply for either your level or your specialty credential, you need to include, along with that application, documentation of your transcripts, detailed work history, and whether that work history was full-time or part-time, If you have a child development course that you need to prove that you've taken, then if you still have the syllabus, that's also very helpful. If you're applying for a specialty credential, you need a copy of your license, your certification, your degree that would give you that expertise in that specialty area. Both your certificates for FET and the Intro to Resources class, and then any other documentation you have on your education and your experience is always helpful for the panel that's going to review your application. Applications for the trainer's credential are reviewed quarterly. And a review panel meets, and they get to look at all the applications in an unbiased manner, and they submit their recommendation on whether or not the person meets the different level or specialty qualifications. They submit that recommendation to the Division of Child Care. Then the Division of Child Care will actually issue the credential at the end of the application process. Once the credential has been issued, it is effective for 3 years. Level 2 through 5 and specialty credentials can be renewed at the end of that 3-year period. A level 1 trainer has to either, they have to apply for a different level if they want to keep their credential. Level 2 through 4 credential trainers have some requirements in order to renew. They have to submit a completed renewal application every 3 years, but they also have to have documentation of continued learning. That includes 15 hours, clock hours of training on adult learning theory and change in behavior. And they have to be adult learning theory classes that are approved by the cabinet. Currently, TIP does offer several different options of adult learning that you can take through Beyond Fundamentals courses, through webinars, and through the Trainers Institute that is offered annually. You also have to submit documentation of 30 clock hours of training in early childhood education. Level 5 credential trainers, in order to renew their credential, must submit the renewal application, but the Level 5 credential does not require any ongoing training hours at this time. And specialty credential trainers must also submit a renewal application, and their application must contain their current license, degree, certification, just to show that you are still current in your field. But again, it doesn't require any additional training hours. The big question that we would like to answer for a lot of you, especially in the mental health field, in the social work field, or if you have the ability to share this information with someone in the social work or mental health field, is that we need you to do this. We need some people with this background, with this training, to offer training to our child care providers. And there are benefits for you in this process. If you're currently offering training of some type out in the field, if you obtain your trainer's credential, then you could have an increase in training enrollment once you can offer clock hour training credit. If you have been previously applying for training approval for every event, once you have a trainer's credential, then you're already approved and you don't have to go through that paperwork process each time. You do have the ability to make a small fee from your training. Once you have clock hour training, the credential allows you to be an independent trainer as well as work for a sponsoring organization. And you can also really benefit just by getting information about your field out to child care providers to help the field of child care understand topics like domestic violence, like child abuse prevention, like pediatric abusive head trauma. That way we know that those best practice principles are being implemented in centers that are caring for young children. This will also really benefit our child care providers. New trainers in the field give very different perspectives, and we have a lot of people with an early childhood background that are current credentialed trainers, but they know a lot about early childhood education. They don't necessarily know a lot about the related fields and how that information from those related fields affects the field of early childhood. Specialty trainers know a great deal in their field, and that's knowledge that they can share with our providers. And also, these training hours help our providers to meet their licensing requirements and to meet requirements to be STAR accredited centers or even nationally accredited centers. Currently, there are several topics that we need trainers who have a social work or mental health background to train in. Obviously, the pediatric abusive head trauma training for child care providers, we have been training people for the past year to have a background in that. I've had a lot of people who have contacted us at the Division of Child Care that are very interested in offering that training, but they need to be credentialed trainers first, because only Kentucky Early Care and Education credentialed trainers will be able to offer the pediatric abusive head trauma training to our child care providers. Other topics that we're really interested in getting more information out to the field of child care include domestic violence, child abuse prevention, and just information on the field of mental health in young children and families. As social workers, you have a couple different options, or anybody in the counseling and mental health field. You might qualify as a level trainer because you are in a related field to early childhood. It would depend on whether you've had child development coursework, how long you've worked in the field, but you also have the option of the specialty credential. The level credential is broader. You can train on any of the 7 core content areas if you have the background in that. But you do have to have the right amount of experience and education in the field. And you have to attend FET and obtain your renewal hours if you have a level credential. The specialty credential would be a much smaller field of information that you're allowed to train on. However, if attending the FET workshop or getting renewal hours is a challenge, this might be an avenue that you would rather pursue. Really, the type of credential that you want is going to be based on who you want to train and what topics you plan to train on, what you have the background to train on. And again, like I said, in order for a trainer to offer the pediatric abusive head trauma training to child care providers, they must have a trainer's credential for early care and education. So this is an opportunity now to start that application process, and then the next time we offer a training of trainers for pediatric abusive head trauma, you would qualify for that if you had received your credential. So now, for those of you who are listening and have questions, if you have something that you want to ask about, what about the credentialing process would you like to know more about? Are there any questions? Anyone? If you don't have further questions at this point in time, I do want to give you some contact information. Again, my name is Sarah Vanover, and I'm the training administrator at the Division of Child Care. You can contact me with any questions about the trainer's credential that you think of. I'd be happy to answer any of those. Along with my contact information, I would also like to provide you with Tammy Green's contact information at TIP, and she can help you with the application process, submitting your application, what type of information you need to submit with that, and any questions along that line. Both Tammy and I can answer pretty much any of the questions related to the credential, so feel free to contact us by email, by phone, whatever works for you. And if you do know of somebody in the field of social work and mental health, please pass this information along, because we would like to find trainers who have that background in order to benefit our child care providers in the state of Kentucky. So if you don't have any further questions, we will end the webinar at this point, and I hope to hear from you if you think of any additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Sarah. Thank you.
Catherine.
Hang up.
What am I on here? That one? Phone. Oh, that phone. Okay.